ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Hey everybody, welcome to a rare, super rare Friday night. I try not to do shows on Friday nights because Friday nights are hard for this teacher life. Hi, but we have a special reason we're here on a Friday night. Today is December 1st. December 1st every year is the day we commemorate World AIDS Day. So, to everyone out here who is fighting the fight, to everyone out here whose status is something that they have to be in a world where sometimes we are misunderstood and stigmatized, we're here to be some joy, spread some information, and love to us here on World AIDS Day. Thank you to everybody who's out here working as activists and artists to try to make this world a better place for sure. I thank you so much. Hello, Waffles. I love that my students here at Waffles Theater Club, Waffles was in the theater club and we had a good time at theater club. He got up and he gave some good information and stuff like that. So today we are doing, for the first time ever, we are having a fundraiser. We are raising money like I'm Jerry Lewis. We are raising money. Oh, yes, we are. We are raising money and you can donate right now. You can Venmo at rbannon. So if you want to Venmo me at rbannon, or hello, Marie. Woo, 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 woo. Or you can go to GLWD because we are giving up our money, our hard-earned money, especially this time of year, to a really wonderful organization called God's Love We Deliver. Yes, God's Love We Deliver. We are donating. Hello, Graham. I love you. And hello, Christine. Happy December to all my Roundtable friends. So you could donate to me and I'll put the money towards our pot, or you can go to glwd.org. Or if you're friends with me on Instagram or Facebook, you can go to Facebook or Instagram and there's a link that will send it, and we'll send it all together to God's Love We Deliver. Do you want to know what God's Love We Deliver does? Well, I would like to tell you. Take a peek at what they do, and then just $10. $10 sends a meal to somebody who has a life-threatening disease. Take a peek.
I was a professional. I anticipated a good life, a good retirement, and then this nightmare happened. I had adenocarcinoma in 2004, prostate cancer. It was in all my lymph nodes. I should have died from the radiation.
I ended up with long-haul COVID. I couldn't read a bread label because I couldn't maintain the concentration. I went into heart failure.
When I stepped out of the doctor's office, the world looked different. I felt like I had a short lifespan and my time is limited. I have multiple myeloma. All my upper body, my hip up to my knees, my bones were breaking.
I was so hungry. It was so painful. I will never forget that sensation.
Because I wasn't eating healthy, I wasn't eating right. Some of my fears was the baby coming out with heart problems, or she has diabetes. Once she come out, I was scared until I met God's love.
When I got my first delivery, I actually cried. I didn't need to worry about preparing my food. I could just take it out, heat it up and have it. It was like being in paradise.
God's love has helped me heal. I feel heard, and it's nice to have food options that you really like. I like the quinoa salads. The kale burgers are my favorite.
The meals make me feel great. I have more energy.
My meals help me take my medication at the correct time.
My doctors was very extremely proud of me and happy, and I actually was under gestational control because of God's Love meals.
God's love was instrumental in me healing. Without it, I wouldn't have been able to stay in my home.
As a single parent or a New Yorker with a disability, we need help sometimes. And that doesn't make you less of a mom.
Once you need someone to talk to, they always answer the phone, they always answer the questions. Anything that you need, they always there for you.
God's love fed me when I was hungry. God's love has been part of my miracle.
I would die without God's love. We deliver.
It's like somebody's out there, somebody cares for you, somebody's remembered.
And then they knocked on the door and they said, "Happy birthday, Kalia," and I got the cake and it was just like, so excited.
The delivery drive has shown me so many acts of kindness. They really care.
It's given me joy. God's love we delivered was the most important piece of the puzzle to make my life complete.
Get with God's love.
So there you have it. So this year we've decided to give our money to this organization as the fatality rate of AIDS has dropped thanks to antiviral medication. This organization, which Joan Rivers was one of the biggest founders of and biggest donors of, has decided to expand. So now it's not only to people that are living with HIV and AIDS, but it's now people who have cancer and any life-threatening disease, and they cannot work and can't afford a healthy, nutritious meal. Just $10 gets you, I feel like Sally Struthers, just $10 gets a brand new meal for somebody in need. So if we can just give $10 each, we'll be able to give meals, especially this time of year. So you can send it to Venmo, and I'll add it to our group, or you can go to their website and do what you can. I'll take $1. Anything we can do. My students we did talk to Julie Banco, and Julie Banco will be on in 2 weeks, and we will be showing that clip, and my students gave questions, and it's really cute. So stay tuned. We'll get to it. We're going to get there, Santiago. So let's get to it, shall we? Let's talk about my week in review, if I can find the button. It's been a quiet week because I've been tired. You know, I think I turned 40 and got old. Oh, so tired, everybody. Are you tired too? Is this what happens? I'm so tired. Or maybe I work too much. But I will be, it's exhausting out here. What did I do this week? I rehearsed. I have a Christmas show coming up. And here's me, Robbie, and Yaz in Yaz's studio in New York City rehearsing the show. We ran it through for the first time. And we had Thanksgiving, everybody. Did you have a good Thanksgiving? I hope you did. That's my brother and my sister-in-law right there for the Thanksgiving festivitiness. And here's my family, my cousins Erin and Carrie and John and Jack and Ryan and Sammy and Aaron and my dad and my whole family. We play a game called Rummikub. We've played it since my grandmother's been around. We kind of play it in her honor. Every Thanksgiving, there's a trophy. It's a tournament. And I have never won the trophy ever. I've never won it once. I've never won it any times. So this year I made it to the finals. So next year you all better watch out because I am coming. I'm coming for it. Yes. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yes, the time change does do it to you. And I will always be young and energetic. You know it. Vitamin D. That's interesting. I do get my blood work checked every 3 months, and I am supposed to go next week. So good. I will get that checked out. I will. That's a good reminder, especially on World AIDS Day when we're talking about getting things done and about. Thanks, Mom. My mom, I appreciate it. Yeah, $10 gets a meal to somebody who needs it for sure. So we had a great week. It was a great week. And then we had Parents' Night, and Parents' Night is a long night, and the weekends are long, and all of that fun stuff. So I hear you all about that. Look at my Claire Bear in the mud of the rain today, going outside. Oh, dogs, you know, they're nutty and fun and cute. And what would we do without them? Good reminder, Marie. Let's get ready for my shameless plug. Ready? Here we go.
'Cause I'm shameless.
Well, I think we've talked about it plenty. We have a show coming up, and you can get yourself over to Chelsea Table and Stage, either virtually or in person, and come see the Robert Bannon Christmas special. My guests include Paige Davis, host of Trading Spaces. She's an Emmy-nominated actress who starred in Chicago on Broadway. Kevin Smith Kirkwood, who starred in Kinky Boots on Broadway. And you know my friend and director, Robbie Roselle. Yes, Fukuoka is back. My background singers, Roger and Lauren, will be there. And I have some surprises with a very special famous guest at the end of the show. And it's not Bruce Springsteen like Darlene Love had at her show, but it's someone even more famous. Ho, ho, ho. It's Saturday, December 9th at 7 o'clock. You can get your tickets at Chelsea and Table and Stage blah, blah, blah. But you could also just go to robertbannon.com and get your tickets. And we'll be partying it up at the rooftop afterwards. So if you're free and available to come on down. And just for you, if you use the code GROUP10, you'll save $10 on in-person tickets. Because I have a Christmas single coming out on the 8th. On the 8th, it's called Don't Save It All for Christmas Day. It's recorded. I heard the first single. I'm wearing the same coat. Hey, look at that. Recyclables. And you can check that out. The single is really fun. And we and the single is beautiful, and I'm really excited. The work that Yaz did. My students choir from New Jersey Performing Arts Center is on it. Background singers are on it. A saxophone player is on it. It's a big production. It's a big old Christmas moment. So it's coming out on the 8th, and I can't wait for you to check it out and hear it and stream it. You know, Rewind has been streamed almost 15,000 times. So thanks to you all for showing me so much love and appreciation. They reminded me earlier that I am nominated for Best Vocalist for the Pride Show on the Broadway World. So we'll have all that information for you next week on how to vote. It's a pain. And I'm so honored and flattered. We didn't even start that yet because with all this other hoopla going on, I just was excited that we'd get to have this moment here together and continue all this fun stuff. There's too much. It's too much stuff going on. I'll be singing this Sunday at the Richfield Park tree lighting. You know, I keep myself, as you know, always busy. I want to let you know that every day there's new content over on the Broadway Podcast Network. I'm so grateful to be a part of the Broadway Podcast Network. If you go to Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts, you can listen to this show, which is already up. The interviews are already up. And then there's other interviews that do not make it onto the live shows every single week, but they're good. They're really fun. And I think you'll enjoy them. And I think you should check it out. Just go to BroadwayPodcastNetwork.com or go to RobertBannon.com. And next week's show, because of rehearsal and because my Darius is in town, is going to be on Tuesday. So Tuesday, I know we switched the days. It messes everybody up. I promise. I'm sorry. It's the last one. I pinky swear. I promise. But Stephanie J. Block, who won the Tony for Cher, will be here to talk about her brand new Christmas album. Plus, the founding 2 members of Straight No Chaser are going to be here. They have billion streams on Spotify. They are an amazing a cappella group. And how do they celebrate Christmas every year? And they're on tour. And you need to check it out. Can you listen on Alexa? You sure can. Just ask Alexa for the Roundtable with Robert Bannon. How about that? You can have me streaming through your whole house. I just did a commercial for them. I did my first paid commercial where I did it for Monty Python's Spam-A-Lot on the podcast. Isn't that crazy? So crazy. Crazy town. Yes, let's go. Come on now. So while we're here talking about God's love we deliver, here's our Hey Friend Hey.
I'll be there for you. How you doing?
Well, Rif Dazi is back. He's our friend. He was here last year for our Pride show, and he was here for our World AIDS Day show last year as well. He's a natural bodybuilder. He's an AIDS activist, and he speaks out about this. He's on boards with scientists trying to find a cure, and he's going to tell us his story. What he doesn't say, but he does talk about publicly, and I'm not outing him, he breaking a stigma. A lot of people think that stigmas that come from HIV are because of promiscuity, or that they're not being safe, or they're not being cautious, or they're with strangers. Firstly, the biggest growing rate of HIV in this country are by straight women who do not have the information that they need and has not been serviced properly, especially women of color. Secondly, like Rif Dazi, in a committed relationship with his partner who then cheated on him and he contracted it, was faithful. People out here who get it through other means as well, drug use, etc. And so we have to be really understanding and forthcoming and not judgmental about people's plight and the path that people are taking out here. We have to listen to their stories and be understanding that this can happen to anyone and get information about it. So Raif is here. I share some of my story. He shares his story, and he's our Hey Friend Hey for the day. Take a peek. So you may recall a while ago, we went and did a press event for a show that was coming out called Titanic. Last year, we were blown away by Rif Dazi. He was a fantastic guest. We learned so much, and he has shared so much of his story. He's so inspiring. A, I don't think he ever eats a carb. B, he is he is someone who's out here who is showing us that the stigmas to HIV here on this, you know, as we commemorate World AIDS Day, there's stigmas that there's a big, beautiful, healthy life for you. And he's back. And I'm so excited to have him back. Raif, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be back.
I'm excited to have you back. When it was coming to this time, I was like, we need to catch up. We need the update on all things that are you. I'm sure you do eat a carb occasionally.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, that's old fake news because I've gained I gained 40 pounds during the pandemic, and I'm slowly whittling that away. But I will get to the point where I'm not eating carbs and I'm ready to compete again.
Okay. Well, as you know, you're a professional bodybuilder, natural bodybuilder.
That's
and
right.
And you have spoken, you go on your Instagram, you have competed, won titles, very dedicated to health and wellness. Was that always something that you were interested in?
Definitely not. In fact, I thought bodybuilding was for the realm of those on performance enhancing drugs and steroids and big yoked looking guys that I couldn't relate to at all. After I was diagnosed with HIV and consequently AIDS in 2012, it became a priority for me to regain control of my body and my health. And what better physical manifestation than to partake in bodybuilding? And so, I started out, and it was really important to me to do it naturally without steroids or performance enhancing drugs, to prove to those in my community that it is very, very much possible, not just for people living with HIV, but for everybody to do it naturally.
Yes, it's so amazing, and I the gym is my happy place. Well, it was a struggle the past few years. The pandemic did a number on us all, so I understand. I was reading a lot of interviews that you have done and conversations that you had, and I didn't talk about this last time, but I read about it this time about your story. For a lot of people, the stigma about HIV is that it's a gay disease. Always, it's still spoken about that way. And then there's this undercurrent about promiscuity, and that there's a shame about, oh, you must be out. Your story really is heartbreaking about what happened. And how do you deal with the story and the shame that the culture puts on this disease?
Personally, I don't really give a flying hoot about what other people think or the stigma that they might embody. For me, I think growing up as someone who was bullied for a long time, who went through depression, who had to go through the whole coming out as gay and being alienated from church when I was religious in my teens and getting kicked out of church, and just hurdle after hurdle after hurdle after hurdle in an attempt to just be myself at the end of the day. By the time I got to HIV and coming out with HIV, it was like, okay, well, if you don't accept me for that, then oh well, because I've developed quite a thick skin from all the previous challenges that I encountered in my life. So for me, I understand that that's not the case for everybody. And for most people, it's a lot more challenging. And so that's why I have my content and I show that it's possible to be positive and smiling, regardless of what the outside world might be throwing at you.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a powerful, important message. And that's when I see, whenever you pop up on my Instagram or on social media, it's just it's such a powerful, your message is so powerful. And I know it helps a lot of people. I'm sure you hear from a lot of people who what you say and living your life has really inspired them. What's it like when people come to you and are moved by your story?
I mean, it never gets old, and I get messages all the time, whether it's privately in DMs or comments. I think our perception of living with HIV and the HIV community is so oftentimes US centric or US Eurocentric, and we don't, a lot of us just don't even know, but we don't think about the fact that there's an entire population of people living with HIV and dealing with it in places all around the world, in Southeast Asia, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, places that don't really get mentioned very much or have very much, if any, visibility. And certainly their local governments aren't advocating on their behalf or creating a culture that is conducive to ending the epidemic. So I would say a great majority of the messages and comments that I do get are from places around the world that we don't think of all the time. And so that's always front of mind for me. And I'm always thinking, like, how can I reach out to these communities and be a source for inspiration and help to these communities, even though they're not really represented here in the US and aren't really thought of very much.
Yeah, it's so important. When I was reading statistics today about the world and as you said, Asia and Africa, and we're still, and then I just had a conversation earlier about the younger people, even here in this country, how it's not spoken about in the way that it was when I was growing up. And that there was a study done that this Gen Z is the least knowledgeable group of people about this, about HIV and what it's like. And now they were going back to the misinformation and misconceptions about it. Yeah, please.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, because we've wanted the epidemic to reach a place where it's not this, scary dark cloud in the sky, but at the same time, once that starts to happen, then we might start to take for granted the implications of what it means to be exposed to or acquire the virus. And to your point about people thinking it's a gay disease, the fact is that more than half of people living with HIV currently in the world, and there are about 40 million people living with HIV, more than half of them are women. So this idea that it's a gay disease couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah. Then also, I do want to add, because you mentioned how much of an anomaly things were during the pandemic, and especially when it comes to the community, people at large, you and me, and the science community, healthcare, government, the amount of mistrust that has grown out of the pandemic is immense. And it doesn't affect just COVID. It reaches across into other things such as HIV. So now there's this, I find that we're trying to overcome this hurdle of new developments coming across in HIV and people having this automatic distrust. For example, U equals U. For those that aren't familiar, undetectable equals untransmittable. That means when someone like me is on effective treatment for 6 months or more and we're undetectable for that period, which means there's no detectable virus in my blood, I can no longer sexually transmit HIV to my partner. So I've been with my boyfriend for going on over 3 years now, and he's HIV negative. We don't use protection, no PrEP, nothing. And it's not possible for me to give him HIV. But because of this distrust that has been brewing and growing, frankly, a lot of people are like, well, I don't trust that. I don't believe in U equals U, or when it comes to HIV cure, and we can touch on that too. I don't believe that they're actually searching for a cure. Or if there is a cure, I believe it's being suppressed because Big Pharma is making so much money off ARVs. So there's just a lot of distrust. And I don't want to totally take over the interview here, but so for the past year, it was a huge goal of mine to work with scientists and researchers in the HIV cure space. So I have the tremendous privilege of being on a community advisory board as co-chair, where every month I have meetings with just the community members, as well as the scientists and researchers that are working at the Gladstone Institutes in San Francisco, at Weill Cornell, in Uganda, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, at all these different laboratories. They're all working towards HIV cure using a particular modality. And so we connect. I get to learn the things that they're working on. We get to communicate to them how they might adjust, refocus their attention, or that the way that they do their research, for instance, the type of language that they use, because language itself can be stigmatizing. So we impress upon them using people living with HIV or participants in their studies rather than subjects or patients, which has its own connotations. So I'm directly working with scientists and researchers now, and then hoping to take that information and share it with my audience, as well as glean their feedback and have an impact directly on the science community as well, to hopefully continue to build trust.
Wow. That is there's so many layers to this, it's more, there's so many layers to, what you said about insurances and doctors and the business of disease in this country in particular. And also the mistrust out here, the misinformation and the mistrust, you see it with however people feel about the COVID vaccine, but you see it you've heard the craziest things, the past few years about it. And, they're tracking us and they're putting, crazy things out here instead of getting the information to make people feel good or to be healthy. I had a situation, and I shared it on the show, where my doctor asked me was talking to me about PrEP medication before I was on it. And I ended up getting a prescription, and I'm a teacher, so I have good state insurance. I pay $5 for medication. I went to the CVS, I picked up my prescription, and they told me it was $6,200. I said, well, I can't afford $6,200. So then I went to my doctor. I called my insurance company. They said, write this different brand. My doctor wrote it, talked to the rep from the pharmaceutical company, gave me a card that would get me, it's subsidized. They won't accept the card because I have insurance. They wouldn't take the second brand. I needed to call and have a doctor send a letter to allow me to get the medication. And it took months. And that's what the situation, and then you wonder why people don't take medication, or they don't get tested, or they don't trust because we have the medication that can help prevent it or help people to become undetectable and be well. And we don't make it accessible for people.
That's right. And right now, there are Republicans trying to ensure that health insurance cannot cover PrEP at all, based on the basis that it infringes on their religious freedoms, which is a bunch of hooey, as you and I know, and those watching, it's obvious. It's just a political move, and it's discriminatory against the LGBTQ plus community, because that's what it's related to in the U.S., even though that's not accurate. And then on your other point about just trying to get access to PrEP through prescription, I read an article recently that Black women, especially in the South, are having an immensely difficult time, and I'm talking about straight cis women, are having a really difficult time just getting prescribed PrEP because the doctor doesn't want to give it to them. They either are uneducated, or they have the stigma, or they're like, you don't need it. It doesn't apply to you. You're not high risk, etc. Even though they are the fastest growing population being diagnosed with HIV in the U.S. currently.
It is something that is not spoken about, and people have such a misconception. Can I ask you this question? You talked about being diagnosed with HIV and then being diagnosed with AIDS. For people out here who don't know the difference, what was the difference, and then how long did it take you to go from diagnosed with AIDS to not being diagnosed, to having HIV, to now being undetectable?
Yes. So I was diagnosed with HIV the week before my birthday in 2012. And then they told me to come back. The appointment happened to be on my birthday. Came back. The way that I was told, I was sitting in the doctor's office. The door was open. This nurse walks by, like 6'2" plus, tatted, gruff, piercings, walks by, looks me in the eyes, steps back and says, "Hey, you know why you're here, right?" And I'm like, yeah, because I have HIV. And at this point, I've already like reconciled, okay, I'm going to die in 2 to 3 years, because that's all I knew. And he goes, "Kid, you got way more than that. You got full-blown AIDS," and walks off. That was on my birthday. I had no idea what the implications of that were. And that's how I found out. Later on, he found out it was my birthday, came back and was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was your birthday." As if it being any other day would justify communicating it in that way. But once I got my diagnosis on that day, I was prescribed medication immediately, went on medication as well as antibiotics. Within, I want to say 6 to 9 months, I was undetectable and going about my merry way. So to define the difference between just having HIV diagnosis and AIDS, they measure your CD4, your white blood T cell count. Once it gets low enough to where it's under 200 or 250, I can't remember, then you have a AIDS related complication. So when your immune system gets that weak, you tend to have infections of any kind. If you have one kind of infection or problem that arises out of having your immune system weakened, then it's considered AIDS. And I had plenty of things going wrong with me. But like I said, in 6 to 9 months on my medication, I was up and at 'em. It was pretty dramatic.
And then this physical transformation, and I'm sure this emotional, spiritual transformation that this has brought you on as well, and professional. I mean, you have really made this your life's work, and have saved, God knows how many countless people have been touched and moved by your story. And then you do make a very important point about partners and your relationship. Did you feel like that was something that was never going to be for you after this? Did you ever have a moment where you thought, does this limit my future, my personal life? Like so many people.
Yeah, maybe in the first few months, I thought, okay, well, forget trying to date anyone who's not living with HIV. Nobody's going to understand. And the transmission, and do I always have to wear a condom forever? I just didn't, there wasn't much understanding there. And PrEP didn't even exist when I was diagnosed, so that wasn't even on my mind. And so I did kind of explore a few sites that were dedicated to people living with HIV, and it was just so depressing for me. Looking through people there, I couldn't relate to anybody, and it was like maybe a half a dozen options, so it was not looking good. Fortunately, I think with education and my understanding of the virus and what the implications were for me in my life, that I quickly moved past that idea. And unfortunately, like you were alluding to, a lot of people around the world don't have that understanding, or they don't believe that it's in the cards for them. I think people who are heterosexual find it, maybe the limitations they place on themselves is a little bit more daunting and more difficult when they consider being in a relationship, whether you're a male or female. I find that a lot of people struggle with that idea. I think maybe being in the LGBTQ plus community, because we all have shared trauma and shared discrimination and stigma, that we can tend to be a little bit more empathetic. Not always, but the tendency is higher.
Yes, I would hope so, and I hope it gets more and more. We have still a ways to go. What is your goals? Not even about this subject. What are your goals? You've really made this part of your platform and your life. What do you hope to do over the next year as we end this year, or in this way, or in any way, really?
Well, I definitely am moving more and more into this idea of collaborating and working with the science, government, healthcare community to spread awareness. But so what I've noticed over the years as I've been doing my advocacy work is that there's a lot of HIV 101 content on social media, especially, which is great. And we need it, and we need more of it in more places. And then on the other side of the spectrum, then there's not much in the middle. And then all of a sudden you have this really dense science kind of information. We're talking about like articles and journals of medicine, etc. Really dense, difficult to understand about HIV. And there's not really much in between. So what I'm kind of doing with my channel now, with my podcast format videos, is trying to fill that gap. So I'm trying to increase the difficulty of what I'm talking about, and hopefully educating our audience more and more, understanding the research into HIV cure, into how HIV works itself, etc. Because I find that there is a want and a need for that type of information. People want to be challenged. People want to learn more and kind of elevate their understanding of the virus and what it means for them or their loved ones. And then also I'm hoping that in doing that, a natural byproduct will be, building that trust with science and healthcare, because as we look further down the line into the future, if we're trying to end the epidemic by 2030, it's not enough to have a cure for HIV and then put that into the world and go, here you go, all right, take it. We did that with PrEP, and it failed in a lot of places, even to this day. And the reason why is because we just kind of threw things at people and said, here you go. And the community is like, what are you talking about? Is this real? Like, what is your motivation? How much is it? Do I have access to it? All these things. We weren't working with communities on that level. And so that's why you have hiccups like you experienced yourself, and Black women are experiencing in the South, and on and on and on. And so the point of doing all this work is that we can preempt that. We can have these conversations with community members one-on-one, with community-based organizations, find out what their concerns are, allay those concerns, educate people, reduce the stigma, build that trust, so that by the time a cure actually arrives, everybody already knows about it, they understand it, they believe in it, they trust it, and it's just a matter of getting it into the hands of people who need it.
We want to run for office. I'll vote for you. I'm ready. Come
No
on.
way.
Come on. I'm ready. I'll come out to California and register to vote out there. I'm ready. the work that you do truly is, divine. It is saving, and it's giving people a face and a story that it's, that we don't always get to see. And it's thanks to the courage. And I'm so grateful that you are so open and knowledgeable and you share it with us. I'm really honored that you're always, when you come on, and I love having you here. People want to see these videos. You want more information, you could follow on Instagram. If you're listening to us, go to the link below us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, obviously it's right here. And I'm ready to see what you have up your sleeves for the coming years.
Thank you so much for having me on, Robert. And it's a pleasure. We'll stay in contact as always.
Yes. There you have it. Rif Dazi, back again for our second year in a row on World AIDS Day. I couldn't find that red shirt from yesterday. I filmed it with yesterday, so I put this big long trench coat on, and to keep with the red vibe. And look, you asked before, you were all wondering where everyone else was. Darius is here, Bank Life, Detroit in the house to support his baby. I said Detroit makes me melt, and I looked good in that video, but now I got the red jacket. Thanks. Samantha works in healthcare. She works in therapy. Insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies try to find a good therapist that accepts insurance in this country. A nightmare. A nightmare. If you're just joining us and you missed us, we are donating money today to God's Love We Deliver. It is our first ever Roundtable telethon. We're collecting money. We've already collected a bunch of money on the Facebook page. God's Love We Deliver donates fresh meals to people in need of a meal with life-threatening disease. If that means it's HIV/AIDS, if it's cancer, if it's severe diabetes, etc., they will bring a fresh meal directly to people's homes right here. Yes, mental health. It's worse. It's very sad. We don't provide support and services that we should in this country. I've wanted this next guest to come on the show last year, and they're always booked. I mean, booked on Broadway, booked in Titanic off Broadway. I got the chance to see them on the Titanic press tour. We all went as a group to see them in Titanic, but more so than what they do on stage, Dimitri is an advocate. And if you watch any Drag Race episode and you see, because that's where for right or wrong, the PrEP commercials and the HIV medication commercials, they're in every one of them because they have become the face and they have become the voice in the entertainment community, fighting the fight against HIV/AIDS and giving awareness. And finally, the day after they won the Broadway Cares Playbill Remember the Ribbon Award, Dimitri, who's on the board of God's Love We Deliver, came by to tell their story. Dimitri is here. Yes, thank you, Christine. An amazing story, one that fights the stigma about having one partner, and that one partner, and all of that information that you need to know about it. Raif telling us about one partner who stepped out in their relationship, and the judgment that we need to stop judging each other, everybody. We need to stop. The Pope of the Catholic Church came out, kicking out cardinals and bishops for not supporting the diversity and inclusion of all people in the church, including the queer community. We need to be more like that. We need to just show compassion and love and find ourselves rooted in truth instead of the stereotypes and the stigma that's out there. That's why this show's so important. Here's Dimitri Muise. So you may recall a while ago, we went and did a press event for a show that was coming out called Titanic, and I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with the cast. And when I went to see the show, I read the bios, and I read about our next guest. And then I was so moved by their journey, by their truth, their artistry, and they literally are on the board of 106 charities. I don't know how they have time, but they get the word out. They won awards. They are on every commercial you may see. They pop up on my television all the time. Dimitri, welcome to the Roundtable.
Oh my God, what an introduction.
Because it's all true. It's
That's
all
so
true.
sweet.
You are so the only thing that tops your voice and your talent, which is beyond when getting to see you on stage, is the work that you do, is so inspiring.
I really appreciate that. And I am so happy to be here today.
We commemorate World AIDS Day. We're donating money. So everybody, please take out, even if it's $10. $10 provides a meal for someone at God's Love We Deliver. And if they are suffering from life-threatening diseases, if it's from AIDS to cancer, just $10. You can just donate $10 and help someone in need today. You have made it a mission, besides being an artist and an entrepreneur and someone who speaks to corporations and schools and people everywhere, to tell the truth about your story. What was that moment like where you said, I'm going to tell my personal story and make this part of my artistry?
So I made the decision to share my status a little over 5 years ago. And it was pretty soon after I was diagnosed. At the time, I was working on managing a magazine for millennial men of color, mostly queer men. And at the time, it was the media's only brand focused on men of color. And I got my diagnosis in the middle of like a big issue where like Taye Diggs was on the cover and like, you know, things are moving, right? Life doesn't stop, but I just couldn't function. And the editorial director and I were really close, and I kind of went quiet. And after a while, I reached out, having missed deadlines, and I finally was like, I gotta deal with life at some point, right? And so I shared my status with them at that time, and they said to me, I had a feeling that was what you're going to share. And I was like, I mean, why did you think that? And she said, the amount of people who have shared their status with me and come out to me in my lifetime, I could feel it in my bones. And that's always stuck with me. She's one of the first people I told. So we fast forward a few months, and we're working on another magazine. Oh my God, sorry.
No, please.
There. Oh, New York City, y'all. We had a visitor that needed to see the door out. Okay.
If you're not from New York, you don't get it.
You don't have to go home, but you really can't stay here. You really can't stay here. We did it. I think that was pretty smooth. Okay. So, So at that time, there was another magazine. It was called HIV Plus magazine, still doing really incredible work, sharing amazing stories. And the editorial director, who also managed that magazine, said to me, so we have this segment coming up, and this was at the end of 2018, called I Am the First. And it is about you being the first in your family to do anything, right? But you are living with HIV. And the point of that segment is not that you're living with HIV, but the fact that you've been able to accomplish this thing as the first in your family. And she said, I think that I want to pitch you for the last segment of the year. And I know it sounds crazy, but I think it might be healing for you. And I took some time, and I sat and I prayed and I meditated. And I say this often, there was a little voice in my ear, it was like spirit from above saying, you don't know it yet, but you're about to walk into your purpose. And when I finally heard that, I said, okay, maybe I will do this and share my story. So it was pretty public when I made that decision. And that day we filmed, I said, okay, like, you might end up becoming the HIV guy, but we're not turning back, right? And I have been so overwhelmed with the amount of love and, no pun intended, positivity that has come my way, the ability to share my story and know that it's affecting the lives of people here in New York City, but also around the country and even across the world. And that's something that I would have never imagined, talking with you here today.
Well, thank you for sharing this story, because you save lives and you help, and the stigma that is there. And I've read a lot of interviews that you've done today while we were getting ready to talk, and a couple of things have stood out for me. Right, I'm going to deep dive and go in for the deep. Your story.
Hot topics.
Hot topic. Here we go. Hot take. A lot of people stereotype this issue as a gay issue, as a queer issue, and are afraid to get tested or afraid to take PrEP medication or afraid to go to the doctor and talk about it because they think they still in this day. And I'm born in 1983. So for me, I grew up in a time where it was a very big conversation in the 90s, Magic Johnson, et cetera. The students that I teach now, they don't even think of this. It's not spoken about in the way that it was in schools. There's no after school special. There's no effort put in to make people get tested and have knowledge about it. What can we do as the public to keep this issue raised and to promote the importance of testing and of ending the stigma of HIV?
Yeah, you're right. It's really important. There was a recent report that came out. GLAAD does a yearly study of the state of HIV stigma in the United States. And this year, the studies determined that that the generation that knows the least about HIV is Generation Z. And there were a lot of respondents who said in that survey, I don't want a hairdresser who has HIV. I don't want to have a teacher who is living with HIV. I don't even want to be in the same room as someone living with HIV. And when you go and look at that study, those numbers are a little harrowing. And to know that Gen Z is the least informed generation, and the generations who are older than us are the ones who are most informed. So to your question, I mean, I am always a huge proponent and champion of education. And something that I know I want to continue doing in my work is passing the things on that I've been through, that I've experienced, that I've learned, mistakes that I've made with people who are coming after me, because there have been many instances where I'm seeing myself literally open up a door and open the key to the Gramercy Park. I'm just kidding, but like opening the key to a park where literally I'm like, oh, I'm the only one who's here, and I have the opportunity to be a voice in the room and say, now that I'm here, there are communities and there are people who you're not paying attention to, who you're not focusing on. And I know those communities, I come from those communities, and we need to pay attention, right, to the most marginalized folks. And so I think making sure, one, that people are educated on what it looks like to live with HIV today. There's a lot of misinformation as well as disinformation. But that being said, I think finding and looking up the science around being undetectable is really easy to find, right? Knowing that undetectable equals untransmittable, knowing that I can't transmit the virus to a partner when I'm living undetectably. All you got to do is know that and start your Google search. And I guarantee you're going to find articles from the WHO. You're going to find, finally the CDC is starting to speak up now that the WHO is like, yes, you equals you, right? So get that knowledge under your belt, because knowledge truly is power. And you can bring that into a space with you if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you work with young people, if you're a young person yourself and you want to share this education with your peers. Young people are still being diagnosed at rates that are just too high. Like they should not be happening in 2023. And I always say that stigma is the thing that is really killing us, like you mentioned, as well as the fact that people aren't informed. And I remember a time that I was at a friend's birthday party, and her husband turned to me and said, he's a good friend, but also he was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I was hanging out with my family the other week, and because of your story and because of the things that you're doing, I was able to talk with them about, what it looks like. He was like, as best as I could. He was like, but I knew that the things they were talking about, like, as it came up, were not correct and were coming from, a biased place. And so I spoke up, right? That's like a cis white guy, like, yes, right? And so having those conversations, even if you think this one little moment where you either ask someone, hey, what did you mean by that? Or can I actually share some of the science with you? That one conversation makes a much bigger effect than you realize.
Absolutely. Now, it would be remiss for me not to talk about, I read a statistic today that there are 10 million people that are HIV positive in the United States that do, maybe this is not accurate, but that are not on don't have access to antiviral medication. I know that there are many charitable organizations out there, like there's a Hyacinth organization in New Jersey that provides it. In every state, there's resources.
Mm-hmm.
You are an advocate about healthcare system in this country as well, as and being a proponent of everyone getting care. Have, in your knowledge and talking and being a part of this community, what have you found is the frustration about people getting the help and care that they need, especially when it comes to testing and medication?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. I think when we look at our healthcare system, one, I think institutionally, right, there's a huge issue when it comes to accessing medication. I remember when I was trying to access my medication for the first time, and I even just said this in a conversation yesterday, it took me a year until I could finally say, okay, I'm here at the pharmacy for my meds, there's no issue. I have to constantly prove to my insurance that my life-saving drug was actually life-saving. And every time I needed to get a refill, which is every month, they constantly asked, are you sure? Are you sure? We need prior authorization from your doctor. This was every month, right? And I had the determination and will to know that I needed to stay on my treatment and needed to get my hands on this medication. But there are a lot of people who will experience that month after month after month, and then they're just like, well, I'm done with this. I don't have time for this, right? And so I think there are a lot of institutional barriers, aside from the fact that people don't have health insurance or have terrible health insurance, or are, a lot of folks who are Black, and a lot of folks that who live in the South that are HIV positive, who probably fall in that number that you shared of folks who are not on treatment and should be on treatment. Medicaid isn't expanded in those states, right? So there's just no access for folks. Maybe the one clinic in your community is miles away, and how are you do you have the time to travel there, for an appointment? Is it the type of clinic where someone sees you walk in and they know exactly why you're walking in there? There are just a lot of different ways that people can feel held back and unsafe and just not willing to even go there. I also think that there's a lot of self-stigma, a lot of self-denial, people who just don't even want to believe it or deal with it. And I've seen that happen a number of times with friends and also folks who get diagnosed and don't want to go on treatment. And something really important to note is when it comes to going on treatment, it is your choice, right? Like, as someone who works on treatment and prevention, I'm always going to advocate for getting onto your treatment as soon as possible. But also, it is such a psychological journey that you have to go through where, I've heard stories and I've met people who tell me, like, literally, I cannot hold the pill bottle. What do? I can't even open it. And so we really have to address that as well, and knowing that it's a psychological battle. And so working with that person, with your patient, your client, and letting them know, I'm advising this to you, but also as someone who's here to support you and someone who wants to see you stay on treatment. Like, we want to get you on and get you to stay on your treatment. It's ultimately your choice.
Oh, it's so powerful, and you bring up a very important point, which I was reading about you and some of the things you were talking in interviews. Families, religion, culture, background plays a very big part in all of this, and the stigma, especially the homophobia that's in families, etc., about what they've said about religion and AIDS and all of these things. It kills people. It kills people because they won't get tested and helped. What advice do you have out there to young people who may be positive, may be scared to get tested, but they're afraid of their families, they're afraid of religion or their community, to give some hope that there's a community for them?
Hmm. Well, what I would say is, I come from that experience. I know it all too well, and what I have learned, particularly, in the advocacy work that I do, you're always trying to power map and see where you can go around here and go. I honestly had to forge my own path and find that community, but the resources are out there, and there are folks who are willing to help and help you get the treatment that you need. There are incredible organizations that are working on the ground in communities where folks might be in a space where they can't store their medication in a room temperature place because someone might find it. They may be a teen who is worried and doesn't want their parents to know. There are resources out there, and there are also advocates like myself who I share my story, and so people message me all the time, and I try to engage in as many of the messages as I can because I know that I was there. And again, like I've been able, and I've been given this, I don't know, dark blessing to open the door for folks who went through what I went through, and they shouldn't have to.
Well, that's so powerful. And your message and what you do, I know he's going to now leave. He's going to do 106 more interviews. He's going to talk in 6 different charities.
Oh my God.
Filming 4 commercials that you'll see during Drag Race every single Friday.
Oh my God. Okay, I don't want to be glib, but it's just who I am. I tell people, just because you said it, I tell people, for me, like, World AIDS Day is like Black History Month or Pride, where it's like, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do that? I'm like, it's like the AIDS version. I don't know what to tell you.
This was,
oh my God.
We just won a playbill. I was there. It was such a beautiful evening. Here's the Titanic family that we.
Oh my God.
You have used your voice for work as much as I can, which was
wow.
Great. And look at baby you on Broadway.
And you didn't tell me you were going to do this going down memory lane.
You had a little memory lane moment. Look at this beautiful moment. How beautiful. Just looking at your Instagram, you can see the groups that you are a part of, that you speak for, from Vote Plus ER and God's Love Will You Deliver. All of the things that you do, you put your money and time and resources where your mouth is. And it's so inspiring to us. So thank you.
That means a lot. Thank you. Those are such kind words. And like you said, right, I'm on the junior board of God's Love We Deliver, so I'm also gonna send out a pitch. Like Robert said, $10 gets you a meal, right? These are people who cannot cook for themselves. They can't leave their homes. They can't shop for themselves. And there are over 3 million meals that are going to be distributed this year to people who are going to get those medically tailored meals just for them. And they get it every single day, rain or shine.
It is such a beautiful organization. And I'm going to have to talk to you about this because it's time that I put my money and mouth to some action as well about this subject.
$10?
$10. Let's go. If you could follow Dimitri on Instagram so you can stay up to date, because he will literally have, 117 other things going on, because you are an inspiration. And I'm really honored that you stopped by and shared your story with us. Thank you so much.
I'm very honored. Thanks for having me.
There you have it. Dimitri Moises is telling us how to do it. You hear that noise? You hear my father? He loves an action movie. Darius, get ready. Thank you all for being here. I hope you donate. I got donations while we were up here. My mom, my grandmother, people that are here. Raif and Dimitri are so incredibly powerful and important to see. An informative conversation with Dimitri and Raif. Robert, thank you for a mix of entertaining, joyous shows and shows that use this platform to share important issues that must be heard. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. Every time I have a show like this, I always go, oh, it's not as much fun. There's no drag queens. It's not as crazy. But sometimes we got to use the good. Thank you. Use the platform for some good, especially on a day like today. But on Tuesday, I can't do it Thursday next week, because I have plans Thursday. I have a show next week, which you all are going to go to robertbannon.com and get your virtual ticket, or get your in-person ticket, get it quick. There's only 12 tickets left. When we, so I have plans on Thursday night, but on Tuesday night, we have a fun fa la 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 2 weeks of Christmas show. So this Tuesday, Straight No Chasers, the a cappella group that is so fantastic with 1 billion views and streams on Spotify, and Tony winner for the Share Show with a brand new Christmas album, Stephanie J. Block. And then the following week, we're back on our regular Thursday nights with Julie Banco, who's starring in Harmony. And the one and only Kaylin Allen is back. I know how much you love Kaylin. I love Kaylin. And Kaylin's coming back with a brand new Christmas single, plus my Christmas single, plus all that fun stuff. Just stay tuned. If you want to donate, like we said, please just Venmo me, or you can go to my Facebook page and you could be a part of it. It's my Venmo is at rbannon, or you could go to glwd.org. Even if it's $1, $2, $5, or $10, that money will go to tailored meals for people with life-threatening diseases. I hope that you join us next week, Tuesday. Say a prayer, be some positivity in the world. And this is what I'm going to say at the end of the show. Sometimes I say, there's more good than there's bad, and let's all give some grace. Let's give some non-judgmental grace and a breath and an open mind. There are people out here struggling a battle that we do not know. And for many of us, we are very grateful. If there's a roof over your head right now and there's food in your fridge and you're able to get up, communicate with someone you care about, and you're able to make a living, and you're able to live somewhere where you are safe and seen and free, then you're doing a lot better than a lot of people. Not everybody has that circumstance. So this holiday season, let's count our blessings. Let's show some grace and patience and love to every single person out there, no matter what race, gender, religion, sexuality, financial bracket you are, political party. Just let's love each other. Let's just start at that. Let's just do a little bit of that. If we just love each other, and thank you to everyone else out here who works on these important issues. I have to shout out my Darius, because he is part of Motor City Pride. I got so much information at Motor City Pride from the amazing organizations that are out there in Detroit. I've got so much information from my friends at Bergen County LGBT Center and the Hudson County LGBT Center. I want to shout out the Hyacinth Group, my friends at the Hyacinth Group that supports free medication here in the state of New Jersey for HIV patients, and testing that's free in 8 different locations. Every state you live in, Christine, in North Carolina, to all the way across to the UK, etc. There's organizations that will provide help for you. All you got to do is Google, and don't be afraid. Call somebody you trust, call a hotline, get some help and support, get yourself a doctor or a clinic that you feel safe and trusted in, and just go you'll be okay, I promise. To everybody here at the Roundtable, to each and every single one of you this week, happy December, happy weekend, enjoy the weekend, and the best is always yet to come. I will see you on Tuesday. God bless you all for being here. Thank you so much. You've given me such joy, and I appreciate all the comments and all the love and support. Till next time. Bye, everybody.